I certainly would say that the messages are absolutely at odds with one another, and doesn't, as I said yesterday, doesn't everything we've seen them do certainly would indicate or signal that they believe, despite what they've said, that there's a military solution to this conflict, and we continue to believe that there isn't one.
John, when was the last time Secretary Lavrov spoke?
Was
it not yesterday?
Last. Yeah, it was the one I talked about yesterday, so it would have been.
All right. So in that, the Russians say that in that they also talked about flying humanitarian aid in on military planes.
I saw that readout. Yeah.
Do you have anything that you can add to that?
What I can tell you is, I think I said this yesterday. Certainly, the foreign minister and the secretary talked about the need for humanitarian aid and access to besieged areas, and discussed various ways in which that might be achieved. I don't have any specifics to
were they
offer
talking
beyond
about
that.
Russian planes or U.S. planes or
Iranian
planes?
I don't have any more specifics to offer than that, but they did recognize in the conversation that humanitarian aid and assistance is important, and certainly we believe that. We also, continue to make the point that it's difficult to make that a goal when, through the bombing campaign and regime operations on the ground, you continue to cut off the various supply routes on the ground to these cities.
All right. And in terms of the Russians and what Samir described as bluffing, which it seems to me the Russians, rather than bluffing themselves, are calling your bluff here, because they have determined that you're not going to do anything really to stop them. Which gets to Elise's first question on the whole idea of when the secretary came in talking about changing the calculus of Assad on the ground. Is it not the case that what the United States did to try and change Assad's calculus on the ground failed, and that, in fact, the country that was able to change the calculus on the ground has been Russia?
I would agree with half of your statement. I wouldn't say that it failed, because if you remember, the reason why Russia flew aircraft in was because the calculus of Assad was changing. He was under more pressure. Damascus was under threat. He was losing a grip. And as we said at the time, when the Russians were getting this great credit for some sort of grand Middle East strategy, what it really was them making a calculated decision, seeing that the regime was under threat, not wanting to have what they believe their military interests are, particularly military interests in Syria, damaged, decided to react, and it was reactive, and that's all it was reactive.
Okay, but
that there's no question that their intervention has in fact had an impact on the calculus of Assad in the opposite direction. He has felt more emboldened. He has felt more reassured, and our message has been the same. That reassurance to him is doing nothing to try to bring peace in Syria, and it absolutely, fundamentally, is at odds with what the Russians themselves have signed up to in 2 communiques in a UN Security Council.
But I don't understand why you're surprised at that.
I didn't say I was surprised by that.
Oh, so you took the Russian? You didn't think the Russians were being honest
by what?
When they voted in favor of the resolution?
Well, they signed up to it. They voted for it. They have been leaders at the table throughout the Vienna process. So I don't see how it would be beyond us to have the expectation that they would honor their word, and that they would do what they said they would do, and in the presence of the rest of the international community.
Well, it's a Chapter 7 resolution, though, right?
But this isn't about trust. And we've been nothing but candid and open and forthright about what we've been seeing them do. And as I said even yesterday, when I got asked about coordination, it's difficult to say you can coordinate with somebody when clearly the outcome they seek is so different than the outcome we seek and the rest of the international community seems to be.
So I'm still confused about 2 things.